Genghis Khan. Genghis Khan conquered more land than any human being in history. He built an empire that stretched from the Pacific Ocean to Eastern Europe, killed an estimated 40 million people, and reshaped the entire world. Nobody knows how he died. In August 1227, during a military campaign against the Shah dynasty, the greatest conqueror who ever lived simply stopped. Some sources say he fell from a horse, others say plague, others say battle wounds. His burial site was hidden so completely that his soldiers killed every person who witnessed the procession. He was approximately 65 years old. The man who left nothing to chance, left his own death as history's greatest unsolved mystery. Jochi Khan. He was Genghis Khan's firstborn son, and his father spent years publicly questioning whether he was even his real son. The humiliation never ended. Jochi was passed over for leadership, excluded from major decisions, and died estranged from his own family around 1225. He never reconciled with Genghis Khan. The official cause of death was illness, but historians have spent centuries debating whether Genghis Khan had his own son quietly killed to resolve the question of succession. Genghis himself died just 2 years later. The two most powerful men in Tolui Khan, a man who drank poison to save his brother. Whether his brother let him or made him, nobody has ever been able to prove. Tolui Khan was the greatest battlefield general Genghis Khan ever produced. His military record was virtually perfect. Then his brother Ogedei fell gravely ill, and the shamans declared that someone had to drink a cursed potion to absorb the sickness. Tolui drank it himself. He died shortly after, in 1232, approximately 40 years old. The official story says he sacrificed himself willingly, but historians have spent centuries quietly asking the same question. Did Ogedei let his most dangerous rival drink first, on purpose? Ögedei Khan, a person whose drinking habit accidentally saved all of Western Europe. His name was Ögedei Khan, and he never even knew he did it. His armies had already torn through Poland, Hungary, and Croatia. Vienna was next. Nothing was stopping them. Then, on December 11, 1241, after a night of hunting and heavier drinking than usual, Ögedei Khan collapsed and died at age 55. His generals immediately abandoned the European campaign and turned back to settle the succession. Historians genuinely believe his alcoholism saved an entire civilization from destruction. His advisors had begged him to stop drinking for years. He never listened once. Guyuk Khan, the ruler of the largest empire on earth, spent his entire reign planning to murder his own cousin. Guyuk Khan became Great Khan in 1246 and spent 2 years preparing for war against his cousin Batu, a man he had hated since childhood. In spring 1248, he set out marching west with his army. On April 20, 1248, he died on the road near Samarkand at age 42. Alcoholism had destroyed his body. Some sources say he was poisoned by agents his cousin had sent ahead of him. He died at war with his own blood before the war even began. Möngke Khan, the most rural Khan of history who destroyed Baghdad, ended the Islamic Golden Age and killed millions across 3 continents. Möngke Khan was systematically dismantling the Song dynasty fortress by fortress when his army stalled outside Diaoyu Castle in 1259. While his soldiers sat outside its walls, unable to break through, disease swept through the siege camp. On August 11, 1259, Möngke Khan died of dysentery. Some say cholera. The man who had shattered entire civilizations was brought down by contaminated water outside a single castle that simply refused to fall. Arik Boke, a brother who lost everything, his army, his throne, his freedom, found dead inside his captor's prison 2 years after surrendering. When Möngke Khan died in 1259, Arik Boke declared himself the rightful Great Khan. His brother Kublai disagreed. 4 years of civil war followed. Arik Boke lost. In 1264 he surrendered and walked directly into Kublai's custody. He was dead by 1266, approximately 47 years old. Kublai claimed illness, but Arik Boke had once commanded the armies of the greatest empire on earth. Men like that do not quietly die of illness inside their brother's prison. Tekuder Khan, a Khan who tried to make peace with the people his own family, had spent a century slaughtering. His nephew had him strangled for it. Tekuder Khan inherited the Ilkhanate and immediately converted to Islam, taking the name Ahmad, and attempted to reverse a century of Mongol destruction across the Islamic world. The Mongol nobility, who had built everything they owned on that destruction, were furious. His nephew, Argun, moved against him, arrested him, and put him on trial. On August 10, 1284, Tekuder was executed, strangled in accordance with Mongol tradition that forbade spilling royal blood directly on the ground. He was approximately 36 years old. He tried to end a war. The war ended him instead. Nogai Khan, a man who spent 30 years building, controlling, and protecting the Golden Horde. One of his own soldiers killed him and delivered his severed head to his enemy as a gift. Nogai Khan controlled puppet rulers, decided who sat on thrones, and commanded armies across Eastern Europe for 3 decades without ever officially taking the title. Then the Khan he had personally installed, Tokhta, turned against him. Their armies met near the Dnieper River in 1299. Nogai lost. Wounded and fleeing the battlefield, he was found by one of his own soldiers. That soldier killed him on the spot and carried his severed head to Tokhta as a trophy. Tarmashirin Khan, a Mongol Khan who tried to pull a 1,000-year-old empire into a new age, but his own nobles hunted him across the country and killed him in a field for trying. Tarmashirin Khan ruled the Chagatai Khanate and made a decision the old Mongol nobility could never forgive. He converted to Islam, abandoned traditional Mongol customs, and stopped attending the great tribal gatherings that held the empire's political structure together. The Eastern princes saw it as a direct betrayal of everything the empire was built on. In 1334, they rose against him, stripped him of power, and hunted him down near Samarkand. He was approximately 40 years old. He had tried to modernize an empire that was not ready to be modernized. It killed him for the attempt. Kublai Khan, the grandson of Genghis Khan, built the largest empire any single ruler has ever personally governed. Then he ate and drank himself to death inside his own palace, while the empire crumbled around him. Kublai Khan ruled China, controlled trade routes from Europe to Asia, and received Marco Polo as a guest in his court. At his peak, he was the most powerful man alive. Then his favorite wife Chabi died. Then his chosen heir died. Kublai Khan collapsed into grief and never truly recovered. He turned to food and alcohol to survive the loss. He developed severe gout, then diabetes, becoming so obese he could barely move. He launched 2 catastrophic naval invasions of Japan, both destroyed by storms the Japanese called divine winds. He launched a failed invasion of Vietnam. Every major military campaign in his final years ended in humiliation. On February 18, 1294, Kublai Khan died at age 78, broken by grief, destroyed by addiction, and trapped inside a body that had given up entirely. The greatest empire on earth had no one left to hold it together. Kaidu Khan, a Khan who spent 30 years of his life fighting one single enemy, and died the moment he finally came close to winning. Kaidu Khan was the grandson of Ogedei and believed Kublai Khan had stolen the throne that rightfully belonged to his bloodline. From 1268 onwards, he fought Kublai Khan continuously. 30 years of relentless, unbroken warfare across the steppes of Central Asia. He won battle after battle. He controlled vast territories. He built alliances across the fragmented empire. In 1301, he launched what was supposed to be his final decisive campaign near Karakoram, the symbolic heart of the entire Mongol Empire. His forces were defeated. Kaidu himself was wounded badly during the fighting. He retreated, but never recovered from his injuries. He died later that same year, 1301, from the wounds sustained in that final battle. 30 years of war against one enemy. dozens of victories across 3 decades of relentless fighting, and then one defeat. One single bad day near Karakoram ended everything. He never got to see what 30 years of fighting was supposed to win him. Abu Sa'id Khan, the last ruler of the Ilkhanate, was poisoned by his own wife, and when he died, an entire empire died with him. Abu Sa'id Khan inherited the Ilkhanate at just 12 years old and grew into a capable ruler who stabilized a fractured empire. But his personal life was a disaster. He became obsessed with a woman named Baghdad Khatun, the wife of one of his most powerful commanders, and took her for himself, destroying one of his most important political alliances in the process. Baghdad Khatun never forgave him for what came after. According to Ibn Battuta, the most respected traveler and chronicler of the medieval world, she poisoned him. On November 30th, 1335, Abu Sa'id Khan died at approximately 30 years old, with no male heir and no appointed successor. The moment he died, the Ilkhanate, one of the 4 great Mongol successor states, immediately collapsed into civil war and fractured permanently. A spurned wife, a political obsession, and 1 cup of poison ended a dynasty that had ruled Persia for nearly a century. Tokhtamysh Khan, a Khan who survived Timur, the most feared conqueror alive, 16 times. The 17th time, his own former ally hunted him to Siberia and had him killed in the dirt. Tokhtamysh Khan reunified the Golden Horde, sacked Moscow, and challenged Timur directly at the height of his power. Timur crushed him in 1391, then again in 1395, burning his capital to the ground and dismantling everything he had built. Tokhtamysh refused to accept it. He kept fighting. He kept rebuilding. He launched campaign after campaign to reclaim what he had lost, fighting Timur's General Ögedei across 16 separate confrontations over 6 brutal years. He lost every single one. By 1406, he had nothing left: no army, no throne, no territory. He was a fugitive Khan, hiding in Siberia, with nowhere left to run. Ögedei's men found him near Tyumen in 1406 and killed him in the frozen ground, far from any throne he had ever sat on. The man who had once sacked Moscow died as a hunted fugitive in the snow. Hulagu Khan, the man who destroyed the most sacred city in the Islamic world. And afraid of a divine curse, that he invented an entirely new method of execution just to avoid it. In 1258, Hulagu Khan besieged Baghdad, burned it to the ground, and killed between 200,000 and 800,000 people in one of the single most destructive events in human history. He ended 5 centuries of Abbasid rule in a matter of days. But when it came to executing the caliph, the man considered the representative of God on earth, Hulagu hesitated. Mongol tradition said royal blood must never touch the ground, so he had the Caliph al-Mustasim wrapped inside a carpet and trampled to death by horses. No blood touched the ground. The curse, he hoped, was avoided. It wasn't. Hulagu Khan suffered from epilepsy his entire life, and his seizures grew increasingly violent in his final years. On February 8, 1265, he collapsed and died on the banks of the Zarine River at approximately 48 years old. His funeral was the only Ilkhanid funeral in history to include human sacrifice. Even in death, he could not stop the killing.